The blood and water apparently ran down the earthquake crack. The prophet Isaiah wrote that Jesus, when he was bruised and broken, would sprinkle many nations. Jesus himself said, when he initiated the communion service, that he would enter into a covenant with all people through his blood, the blood of the covenant. The blood would confirm this covenant. When Jesus became the sacrifice, he sprinkled his blood himself and thus fulfilled the role of the high priest.
Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. If you forgive others their transgressions, your heavenly Father will forgive you yours. But if you do not forgive others, neither will your Father forgive your transgressions.
made the eternal sacrifice for sinners. Does the word sinners apply to all of the sinners of the Old Testament as well? This is the question which has puzzled me and many others. All the people in the Old Testament committed sins just like modern man. That is why animal sacrifices were necessary. Once they died, they went to Sheol. Is Sheol a synonym for hell, or does it also stand for paradise? For the early Hebrews, it stood for both. Jesus used a parable to describe Sheol in Luke 16, verses 19 to 26. The parable regards two men, one rich and the other poor. Both of them died at the same time. The cruel rich man went to Sheol, and the other to Abraham's bosom. Abraham's bosom refers to a place of comfort in Sheol, where the righteous dead will abide prior to the coming of the Messiah. Today, the Jews still believe their dead are in Sheol, but as the beliefs go, the word paradise has never been accepted as a synonym for Sheol by the Jews. When the rich man pleaded Abraham for help, in the parable, Abraham answered, "And besides all things between us and you, there is a great gulf fixed to stop anyone from crossing over to you, and to stop your side from crossing to ours." Read it in verse 26. This implies that Abraham and the poor man were together in Sheol, were separated from the side of torment. Jesus went to hell to eliminate the paradise many Hebrews believed in. Jesus knew that those spirits who were in Sheol were loyal to God, and they were there awaiting his presence. Jesus came to earth so all the sinners could inherit salvation, including the souls in Sheol. The souls in Sheol were there since the pre-New Testament era. Jesus sacrificed his life for the sinners who existed before and for those who would come afterwards. The day he entered the heart of the earth, God was fulfilling his promise to his children, that their sins would be erased forever by the new covenant of the Messiah. When one of the crucified thieves asked Jesus to remember him when Jesus entered his kingdom, Jesus said, quote, "Today you shall be with me in paradise," unquote. Jesus was telling the thief the truth. Jesus was to announce the new paradise for all who will believe and follow him. But Jesus' paradise was not going to be on earth. Going into paradise was not yet ordained for the Jews while the Christ was alive, and there were many Jews living without recognizing Jesus as the Messiah. The only two prophets who went directly to heaven before the birth of the Messiah were Enoch and Elijah. The in-depth mission of Jesus. Jesus' mission in the heart of the earth was to release all the believers who were in the bosom of Abraham's section of Sheol. When Mary saw Jesus, he must have come up from the heart of the earth after completing his mission of salvation. Jesus needed to be seen by his followers to fulfill the second part of his prophecy, promising that on the third day he would rise. Jesus spoke in parables many times to disclose some of the doctrines of God. These doctrines would not be exposed until the ministry of Paul was preached to the Gentiles. That is why the books of Paul are essential in understanding the doctrines of God. In the book of Ephesians, the Apostle Paul mentions the descending of Jesus to Sheol. Read Ephesians chapter 4, 9. Quote, "Now that he ascended, but he also descended first into the lower parts of the earth," unquote. Now, let's put it all together. On the third day after his crucifixion, Mary Magdalene saw Jesus. When she reached out to Jesus, he pulled away. Why? "Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father." When Mary saw him, he had just returned from emptying paradise and escorting all of them to heaven. He himself was already purified to sanctify all the souls in paradise. Jesus could not let Mary touch him because she was still on earth and not yet purified from her sins, which would happen after his ascension. The Old Testament believers had to wait for the birth of the Messiah to be granted salvation. When Jesus went to paradise, he sanctified them and made them ready to go before God. Jesus emptied paradise and eliminated it forever. Now only the evil dead are there, waiting their judgment. The paradise for all sinners who are saved in Christ is no longer in Sheol. It's now in heaven.